First and foremost, I'd like to apologise for not uploading my Halloween or my Dark Knight reviews. Been very busy at work and it's been very tiring for me, so yeah, I apologise. Maybe next Halloween. Second, I just want to point out that The Shining is one of my top 3 favourite films of all time. It is an absolute masterpiece. It is so ambiguous and it is just fantastic. I love it so much. So when I heard that Doctor Sleep was coming out, I was a little bit worried because I didn't want this film to be the explain film where it explains The Shining, where it has loads of jump scares and no character development, because there's a lot of films like that. And thankfully this film is not an explain fest. There are some explanation, I'll get into that soon, but for the most part the first 2 hours are a character driven story. And this is what I like in a horror. I don't like jump scares every 5 seconds on the screen. I like to see my characters being built up first, because if you're going to have jump scares, you're not going to really care about the characters, to be honest. It's kind of like The Nun. They kind of just threw him in there, did a little bit explaining, but other than that, that film was awful. By the way, I'm gonna have a little bit of spoilers because some of them intertwine with my issues with the film. So we have Danny, who is a homeless man and an alcoholic, and he's trying to get through his life by traveling from city to city. And there's a hint that he's hiding. And then we're also introduced to Rose the Hat. This is probably one of the best villains I've seen in a horror film in a very long time. They needed something to pretty much survive, and that's what I kind of liked about it. They actually explained why they're kind of assholes. And there's a scene with a boy that I thought was handled pretty well. That is scary. That is horror. That wasn't a jump scares or anything. That is pretty much pure terror. And pretty much all the actors did a really great job with this film. Even the characters, I liked all the characters. It was a really fun time seeing a horror film with a good cast and good characters again. Because recently I've been really off with horror because they're mainly the same. It's kind of like Marvel films, they all kind of start the same, they kind of all end the same, and I kind of had a feeling with this film as well, is that you kind of basically know what's going to happen. I mean, it's not a big flaw, I think it's just something to do with me, but you know. This is probably one of the best shot horror films as well, and especially the lighting, everything isn't so dark, everything's kind of like, you can see things. You can actually see where they are, it's not complete pitch black, and I appreciate that for once. Especially the colour palette, I think they use that really nice, and especially how some shots were kind of taken from The Shining. I really like that aspect of what they took from The Shining. Now, here's my gripes with the film. Some callbacks from The Shining I liked and were utilised well, but others I just didn't really like it that much. It was kind of showy, like, hey look, that's from The Shining. And then to me, I just felt like, at the same time, it's not really doing anything new, it's just showing us something we've already seen, and I hope that they didn't had to show it more than 5,000 times. I've already seen it. Maybe that's because I've watched The Shining so many times, just used to seeing it, so it doesn't really have that much of an effect on me on this film. But then it might be different for another audience member, I don't know. It might be, it might not be, but that's my personal opinion. I feel like some things they should have shown, and then other things they should have completely left out. And now this is going to get into a little bit of spoilers. So you know how the majority of the ghosts in The Shining that actually show up? Well, you see them in this, and the way that they use them at the end was kind of comical in a way. And I was like, And then the film kind of explains what happens to Danny's dad in The Shining, and I really didn't like that, because I like the ambiguity of what happened to Jack Torrance, and this film kind of explains it. Now, this is probably in the book. I haven't read the book. Please don't tell me to read the book. I've already got enough. But at the same time, I just didn't like it. Like I said at the start of this review, I like the ambiguity of The Shining. It didn't tell you everything. It let you decide. It was up to your interpretation of what actually happens. And that's one of my issues with this film, is that it shows a bit too much, and then it becomes a bit predictable, and then it ends up kind of average for me. One thing I want to kind of say as well is that this film isn't really attracting a lot of attention. It's got like 2,000 reviews already on IMDB, and that's really, really low. Usually it should be on like probably 60,000, maybe 50,000 reviews by now, but it's going really slow. And that's a problem, to be honest, because I want more films to be like this. I want horror films to be more character driven instead of, oh look, scary thing happening, jump scare every 5 seconds. And this is the problem with basically cinema at the moment. You have all these big blockbusters coming out with Marvel and these horror films that are advertised everywhere, and they end up being completely crap. And they say, oh, it's linked with The Conjuring, because everything now with movies have to link into something, and then apparently that's the selling point for some reason. If your film links into another film, then it's a masterpiece. It's fantastic. But this film is linking from The Shining, right? But I feel like most people of this generation won't appreciate The Shining because there isn't jump scares every 5 seconds, and they wouldn't really understand it, because a lot of films these days now, they have to explain everything to you. There was a problem I found in Joker where it had to show the flashback of Arthur on his own and not with Sophie, and obviously that was for the audiences that are quite stupid, to be honest. But yeah, I feel like that's the generation's fault, to be quite honest, not how they promoted the film or anything, but because people want to see the nun chasing 2 people in a church for 2 hours instead of a character-driven story and good cinematography, good characters, good lighting, a tribute to one of the best filmmakers of all time. I haven't even mentioned the score. The score is actually it's fantastic. Obviously they used some from the first film, but the score is fantastic, and I want to really praise Mike Flanagan for not being a sellout director for horror. He's doing a really good job. I haven't watched Gerald's Game, but I've watched Hush and The Haunting of Hill House. I like both of them. Haunting of Hill House, I wasn't so into it, but I was interested in how he was telling a story, and at times I was very creeped out. I hate doing this with scores, but I'm gonna have to give this a 7.5 out of 10. I hate making it half a score, but here's what I'm kind of thinking of. Maybe next time I see it, it might be an 8 out of 10. But for now, I'm kind of half and half. I really, really don't know. I feel like you guys really have to check this film out. It deserves attention, basically. It's not a cash grab. It is a really well made film. I have some personal problems with it, but on a technical film standpoint, it is great. Thank you for watching.